Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so one thing that's always nice to grow are spring onions. Now, spring onions can be used in a whole manner of dishes, and these are some that I picked up for 75p from Wilco's. These are white Lisbon. I don't know if you can see the name at the bottom there. Now, spring onions are really easy to grow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sow them in a seed tray, and then as soon as they start coming up, what I'm going to do is separate them out, and I'm going to grow them some outside and some inside. So I'm going to do a number of sort of sowings of these. Now, it does actually say sowing from March, and I know I'm in sort of middle of February, but what I'm going to do is take a chance, and I'm going to grow some of these. You do get quite a few seeds in the packet. I'm just trying to look how many there are. But basically, all you need to do, get your seed tray, and then put some compost in there. You don't need the compost overly deep. You want it about sort of 1.5 inches or so. So not massively deep. I'll just put another bit in there. That's perhaps too much. Okay. So what I'm going to do is basically just level that off. Like that. Now, as I say, spring onions, you can grow them pretty much anywhere. You can grow them in a little pot on your windowsill in your kitchen if you haven't got a garden yourself, or you can grow them in your greenhouse amongst the tomatoes, or you can grow them outside in a row. You can grow them pretty much anywhere. Obviously, if you grow them inside, in your greenhouse or in your house, obviously you're going to get a sort of quicker growing crop. But you can grow them pretty much anywhere, and they're nice with a lot of things really. Obviously not only salad, you can also sort of chop them up and put them on chilies, or you can put them on curries as well. In fact, a lot of curry dishes actually use spring onions. What I'm going to do, I'm not sure if the seed's actually in a packet inside the packet, or if it's actually, let's take a bit more off. Right. Yeah, it's in the packet in there. So all I'm going to do very quickly, and as I say, you're going to have lots of seeds in here. Most certainly enough for a number of sowings. And what I do suggest as well is you do a succession of them, because obviously you don't want them all coming at once. And you can grow these, as I say, if you grow them inside, you can pretty much grow these all year round, to be honest with you. So I'm going to be starting these off in the greenhouse. You can sow them directly outside if you wish, straight to the ground. So what people typically do is grow them in like a small row, and then either thin them out, or what you can do is actually just pull them as they grow. You can pull individual ones out, but what you tend to do if you do that is you can damage the roots of the neighbouring onions if you're not careful. So I've spread them reasonably thinly. I'm going to put a few more in there actually. As I say, the seed looks like little black pieces of coal, if you can see that. As I say, I'll put quite a few in here, so all of these will probably come up. And then what I can do is thin these out, much like you do with leeks really. You can thin them out and then plant them outside, but what I'll probably do is plant these in clumps. And then sort of, as you can pick them obviously. But the thing is, I find as well, is if you buy these in the shop, you typically buy a bunch of them, and there's typically, I don't know, a dozen or so in a bunch, and you don't always want that many in one go. I always like to think that you use it more of a garnish than anything. You sort of chop it up and put it on top of a salad or on top of a curry, or if you do fried rice, like the Indian style fried rice, it's some spring onions on there are really nice. So all I've done there is I've just put a very light, probably about 1/4 inch or so of compost in. like that. Just tap that down. What I'm going to do is just firm that in now with my piece of wood, like that. What I'll do is I'll give this some water, and I'll also put a piece of glass over the top just to give it. Whilst we're still in February, and we are going to have, I think, a bit of frost possibly next week, just to keep them a bit warmer. What I'm going to do now is just give them a bit of water, put a piece of glass over in exactly the same way as I've done with others. A piece of glass about that big would be ideal, or if you haven't got any glass, put the whole thing inside a plastic bag. That's another way you can do it. So obviously some see-through polythene, and then that'll keep that warm. Keep them moist but not wet, and then they'll germinate in the next 2 to 3 weeks. As I say, as soon as they'll grow like almost like grass. And when they're about 2 inches high, that's about the right time where you can thin them out. And you can either plant them inside your greenhouse, or you can put them in a pot, or you could actually just leave them in the tray and let them grow on in the tray, because obviously you're going to pick them when they're about the size of your finger anyway. So the width of your finger. So you could potentially leave them in here and just pick them out of there if you wish. What I'm going to do, I'm going to plant some in the greenhouse. I'm also going to plant some in the open ground outside a bit later on in the year. That'll probably be the second sowing that I'll do. What I'm going to do now with this is just give them a bit of water. As I say, put a piece of glass over them to keep them nice and warm. And that's the first lot of spring onions for this year. Okay, on to fuchsias. Now, at this time of year, your fuchsias will start to kind of spring back into life. What you need to do over the winter is just keep them just slightly moist. What you want to do is keep them alive, obviously, but what you don't want to do is have too much water in there, because if they do get cold and freeze, it's the ice crystals that'll sort of damage your plant. So all you need to do really for fuchsias at this time of year is just sort of trim off. Now I want this to like form into a bush. Now this is a hardy fuchsia, so all I'm doing is just trimming off, and I'll probably take that one off to kind of there. So you end up with just the shoots. Now I don't know if you can see, but you need to have quite keen eyes. But just down at the bottom there, and if you can see, but right in there where my finger is, there's a little teeny shoot just starting to come up there. And that tells me that this plant's about to start to grow. And what you'll find is little shoots starting to form all up on the stalks as well. But typically fuchsias will always start at the bottom, and you can just see there, you can just see a couple of leaves coming through the lock of sort of browny green colour. So that tells me this fuchsia is ready to start to grow again. So all I'm going to do is give it a little bit of water. I'm not going to disturb it in the pot at all at the moment. What I will do is put this out in the ground when it started to grow anyway. But if you are going to sort of pot up fuchsias, what I would suggest you do is wait till they start to grow. Wait till the little shoots are starting to form and everything, and at that point then move it over. What you don't want to do is shock the plant in sort of repotting it at the moment. So all I'm going to do is just give that a little teeny bit of water like that, not sort of too much. What you want to do is give it enough water to get it so it's able to start to grow. But what you don't want to do is absolutely drown it. And fuchsias don't like lots of water, but what they do like is to be kept moist, but not too much. Obviously this is just running out now, so that's all I'm going to give it, just a little bit of water. Leave it in the greenhouse. It's most certainly not ready to go out yet, even though this is a hardy variety. I wouldn't suggest you put it outside yet, if it's a young plant like this. I'm just going to set this down on the other side of the greenhouse and let that sort of grow on. As soon as the shoots start to grow, I can either then, and we're free of the sort of threats of frost, what we can do then is either plant it out, or we can pot it up into a larger pot and grow that in the garden for later in the year. Okay, so the good thing about kale obviously is, apart from the fact that you're sort of cropping it right at the beginning of the year or sort of late on the year, it really gives you some fresh greens for the winter. And what you can do is just keep pulling at the same plant, sort of gathering the leaves that you want. Now the good thing about kale against compared to cabbage, And obviously with the cabbage you need to pick the whole thing in one go and eat it. Whereas with kale what you can do is you can just keep picking a few leaves off each of the plants like this. Take what you need for a meal, and then what you actually get is it encourages the plants to grow these fresh leaves. Obviously leave the larger leaves on, the older leaves around the edge, and then what you'll get is nice tender greens, and then the plant will keep growing. And then what you do is you get this sort of head forming at the top where you just get more and more fresh leaves, and the more you pick at it the more it grows back, and then these will keep growing now until sort of well into sort of April really. That's when they start to die back, but you'll get nice fresh leaves that you can keep going. Now, so for a family of 5 like mine, you probably need about this many plants. I think there's probably about a dozen or so plants here that you can keep picking at, and that'll give you nice greens to eat at. And then obviously whilst I'm picking at this, obviously the spinach is now coming back, as you can see at the bottom here. The spinach will be back in the next few weeks growing up, and then we can start to pick at the spinach as well. But that's what the kale looks like at the moment. Okay, so I'm just taking some parsnips up now. This is about the 3rd attempt of me to actually taking this video, because it's either been too windy or the video wasn't taken. But I've eaten most of the parsnips now. As you can see, there was 2 rows here. I always grow 2 rows and I put in 4 different seeds. So basically put the drills up and down, and then basically what you do is you sow 4 lots of 4 different varieties of seeds, and then you got a much better chance of things germinating and stuff. But what I'm going to do now is dig some of these up so you can see what the parsnips look like, and I'll just put the camera on the stand and I'll show you what that looks like. Right, okay, so I've had some really nice sized parsnips at the end of the row. I'm not quite sure what they're going to be like here, but no, I normally dig parsnips up with a spade, but because the ground is so soaking wet, what I'm going to do is try and get these out with the fork. So what I actually do is I'll dig the parsnips up, put them in a bucket, and then just rinse them before I take them down to the house. So that's not a bad sized one. That really is an ideal sized parsnip. I always find, if they're that size, they're nice and sweet. They haven't got a hard core running down the middle of them, so that's a nice size. This one here, a little bit smaller, but that'll do quite nicely. Right, just try some more here. But as I say, what I find is it's actually easier to dig these out with a spade. I find you cause less damage to the parsnips. So these are a lot smaller than the ones out up the other end of the row. The other end of the row, they were kind of that in diameter. They were probably about a foot or so in length. So I'll just see if I've got one that size here. I'm not sure. Yeah, there you go. So that's quite a short one. So that's a typical size parsnip. So I just want another couple, then that'll do me for today. So all I do is put the spade in, or as I say, this is the fork, but what I normally do is put the spade in about 6 inches away from the parsnip, and then dig it up, throw it on one side like that, and then you can just quickly take off the dirt around like that. And then all I need to do then is put some nice hot water in the bucket, rinse them off before I take them in the house, peel them, and then basically that all I do with that is peel it, take the top and the bottom off it. Anything bigger like this I'll probably cut it to quarters, and then just put a drizzle of oil over them, put them in the oven for about probably about 50 minutes at 180 or gas mark 6 or 7, split gas mark 7, and then they'll roast up really nice. Okay, I just thought I'd show you this shudder that I've got this week. It's a Titan. I bought it from Screwfix, and it's a nice bit of kit. It cost £80, and I just wanted to put it through its paces before I showed you. But as you can see, I've been shredding up. This is cherry wood. I've just trimmed my cherry tree down. As you can see, it's chopped that up into a nice fine chippings. This here is some lighter wood that was chipped in there, so that's apple wood. But as you can see, it generates really good chips. Now with chips, that they are really good for the garden for a number of ways. You know, you can use them as mulch, or you can use them, basically just bag them up like this, and you can rot them down, and obviously you can create sort of compost with them as well. Don't put it straight on the ground. What I would suggest, if you are going to leave it in the bags and compost it, what you need to do is, the bacteria will break down the wood, but what the bacteria will do is will take all the nitrogen from the ground or wherever that's around it. So if you dig this straight into the ground, what it'll do is it'll leach all of the nitrogen out of the ground. So if you want to rot it down, the best way to do it is to bag it up like this, and then get some used coffee grounds from Starbucks, mix that in. So what you can do is just pour fill the bags this full, pour the used coffee grounds on the top, and then water it in to the chippings. And what that'll do is, coffee is very high in nitrogen, or the used coffee grounds are high in nitrogen, and what that'll do is it'll feed the bacteria in there, which is already in the bark and stuff, and that'll break that down so much better. And then this time next year you can empty this onto the ground, and then you can use it as a sort of compost really. But what I'm going to do with this is use it as a mulch. If you're going to use it as a mulch, obviously what you don't want it to do is to break down quite as quick, and you can spread this on the top of the ground to to prevent weeds from growing and stuff like that, or you can sort of generate sort of temporary paths with it as well. So that's what I'm going to use this for. But I just wanted to quickly show you the Titan shredder. Now basically what happens is you put the wood in the top here, your branches and stuff like that. For green wood that you've just cut off the tree, anything up to kind of 2 inches, sort of 40 millimetres or so, will go through there quite nicely. I have found this, if you put dry wood, sort of old wood that was cut last year, really you want to stick to something more like about 1 inch or so, and it'll cut through quite nicely. And basically what happens is it feeds through there, and basically what happens is it feeds down onto these blades here, which obviously spin round like that, and then it basically chops it up into fine chips, as you've seen in the bags. So personally I thought it was a really good buy. It cost £80, as I say, from Screwfix, and it's done a really good job this morning. Obviously you need to provide your own bucket. The bucket doesn't come with it, so all I've done is just put this trug at the bottom there to catch the chippings, and also just pour them into the bags as you use them. But that's the Titan chipper. Just another quick note from an environmental point of view. If you burn wood, it's actually better for the environment than it is to chip it like this. Obviously, as the bacteria breaks down the chippings, what it does is it does create a lot of carbon dioxide, which is obviously a greenhouse gas. If you burn it, you create considerably less carbon dioxide. You create more carbon and stuff like that, which is basically the ash. So from an environmental point of view, if you do have a lot of wood and stuff like that, and you want to get rid of it, it's actually more environmental to burn it than it is to chip it, that I have here. Okay, so one indoor plant you can be helping along at the moment is AloeVera. Now AloeVera is an unusual plant, but I think every house should have one. It's a type of kind of succulent really. But AloeVera has got a lot of really good properties, which I'll come on to in a moment as I'm doing this. But as you can see, this one's got quite sort of pot bound, and any sort of household plants really now at this time of year, whilst you're waiting for the good weather to come, it's a really good idea just to quickly sort of repot them up, separate them up a little bit. And that does one or two things. It does, it keeps your plant nice and healthy, but also what it also enables you to do is to sort of generate more plants that you can give away to friends and stuff. So it's nice always really. Now AloeVera doesn't have the best roots of all. If I just quickly just sort of shake I'm just sort of with me thumb, I'm just sort of going around like that, knocking the ground off. And what I can do then is separate them out. So what I want to do is just try to pull off these smaller ones. Now as you can see, there's the plant, but the actual root itself, there's not much of a root there to it at all, but that'll go on to make a really nice plant. I'm just going to quickly tease these off. You might need to be a little bit firm with them. So these are obviously the smaller plants that are grown from it, and they grow from the side of the mother plant. And these plants do get tied after a bit. So what you need to do is just sort of pull these off. Now, aloe veras are the best looking plant of all. I must admit, you know, they are quite sort of spiny looking. They're not sharp in any way, shape, or form. You know, you can rub your hands on them. Right, aloe vera. What's it good for? Well, many things. There's actually a company called Forever Living, which actually sell aloe vera product, and they make all sorts of medicines and lotions and stuff like that from the aloe vera plant, which are good for a whole manner of things. It's very good for digestion. You can actually eat it. It's not the nicest thing to eat, to be fair. I'll just show you in a moment. I'll pull one of the old leaves off and show you what the sap looks like. But it's kind of like a clear, sort of mucusy type sap. But the reason I keep aloe vera in the house is for when you get burnt, because if you burn yourself, most certainly if you've got you know, if you catch yourself on the grill or whilst you're cooking or anything like that, that's why I always keep these in the kitchen. If you pull off, I'll pull the sleeve off here. It's an old one, so it's quite dry, but you pull it off like that, and then if you can see, but if you squeeze the leaf, you get this sort of mucusy type stuff. Now if you put that on, so if I burnt my hand there, if I rub that on, just squeeze the leaf like that, and what you find is the juice from the leaf comes out, and you can put it on. As you can see, it's quite sort of mucusy. You can see why I'm calling it that. You put that on the burn, and it does a couple of things. One, it's it's kind of an antibiotic, so it does stop any infections or anything like that. It also moisturises the area, so it stops the area you know, becoming dry, which is one of the problems you get when you burn yourself. But it's also got some really good healing properties, and it'll actually help the skin to mend itself as well. So it is really good plant to have in the house. Now I've got a sticky arm. I'll show you how to pot them up. Now this one really is getting to the end of its life, really. They do get a lot bigger than this, but because we're always pulling the leaves off when we get burnt, they tend to get long and sort of leggy. They can get a lot bigger than this if you don't sort of pull at them. But basically, all I'm going to do now is pot this back up in that pot that it came out of. So I'm just going to put they're always best in pot, you know, porcelain pots. And what you need to do is, obviously this compost that we've got here is completely spent, so that's no good. Now what I've done is I've just washed some gravel. I'll just put that gravel over there. I've just washed some gravel, and the easiest way to wash gravel is just to put it in a pot like this, and then basically pour water into the pot. Just agitate it round a little bit, and then that'll wash the gravel. Then you know the gravel's nice and clean. So what I'm going to do is mix up some gravel like that with some compost. What you can do is you can put some sand in as well if you wish, but I typically find gravel and compost like this works quite well. You need the gravel in there really for weight to kind of hold it. As I say, you know, the roots aren't massive for a plant of this size, so what you need to do is you need to have the gravel in there about 50-50. So what you do, I'll put this gravel that was on the top back in here. It'll be okay. And what you need to do is mix it up like that as best you can. So you've got about 50-50 compost and gravel. And what that'll do is it'll hold it in there a lot better, and it'll sort of anchor the plant in there. Now, all I'm going to do, because this pot's not very big, really, to be honest with you, I could do the bigger pot for this one, slightly deeper pot. I'm just going to put a little bit of compost and gravel at the bottom, like that, and then I'm just going to sit it in like that with the roots spread out, and then I'm just going to tease some compost and gravel around there. As I say, ideally this plant could do with a bigger pot, but these are the pots I have in my kitchen window, so I don't really want to put a bigger pot in there. And also just push that in like that. You need to get it nice and firm. because that's what's basically holding the plant in there. And obviously now I've pulled that and I've sort of you know, sort of disturbed the roots. It will encourage it to send out more roots anyway. So as I say, nice and firm. You want it around half an inch or so from the top of the pot. Then all I'm going to do with another bit of gravel is just dress the top with some gravel, and this will do two things. One, it'll anchor the soil down a bit further, also it looks nice as well, but it'll also hold the moisture, and so when you water it in the house, it'll hold the moisture in there so much better. So that's that one now potted up. Now the others, I'm going to basically do pretty much the same thing, but with plastic pots, because I'm going to be giving these away to friends. I've only got so many porcelain pots. So what you need to do, again, put a bit of compost and gravel mix in the bottom, and then what I suggest you do is if you hold the aloe vera plant like that, what you want to do is bury it up to about an inch off, or half an inch or so above where the roots start. So I'm just dropping that into the pot like that, as you can see, where the roots are in there, and then what I'm going to do is just drop the compost and gravel mixture in like that round there, firming as I go. Alright, give it a tap, and then you can give it a bit of a waggle so that the compost is all the way around the roots, like that. As you can see, I've planted that so it's basically at the root of the plant, like that. Don't worry about that, that'll be perfectly fine as it is. And again, I'm just going to dress it with a bit of gravel on the top, like that. So that's your finish. So as you can see, it is reasonably deep in there, but don't worry, it will grow up from there. Right, I'll just do another couple. Also got the video camera going. So bit of compost in the bottom, yeah, with your gravel. Here's a smaller one. So just grab your aloe vera plant like that, and as you're holding it in place, just drop the compost in either side like that, firm him in like that. Now these plants don't need feeding or anything like that. There's enough food in this compost. This clover compost to last these plants a year. You know, they're not a greedy plant, but what they will do is grow quite vigorously now I've potted them up. And what you will find is now I've done this, they will start throwing out little sort of baby plants from the side, and you can take them out again exactly. You know, they haven't got to be this big. You can take them out when they're quite small and pot them on. And that'll create another little plant. Obviously, if you can leave them till they're about this big, you do tend to transplant a lot easier. Like that. As you can see, you can very quickly pot them up. And these are ideal to give away to friends, or if you've got a charity which has a shop. You know, I'm a true believer in aloe vera. It's a really good plant to have in the house. I think everybody should have one. Because the medicinal properties. I shan't go into too much detail, but if you look online for aloe vera, you'll be able to see there. You know, I'm no expert in the aloe vera, but you know, there is loads of good reasons to have aloe vera in your house. Ideally, these plants would have gone into, if I wasn't giving them away, I'd have put them probably into a bigger pot, probably better than a 4-inch pot or so. And you know, if you're going to grow them on, really, I would say to put them in a sort of 4-inch pot or something like that. That's the ideal size for them. Just mix up a bit more compost just to quickly do this. As I say, I use them for, you know, if I burn myself or anything like that in the house, or if any of the family burn themselves. But you can eat. You know, it's good for stomach. So what they actually do is they make these sort of almost like drinks that you can drink from it, and that's really good for if you've got stomach problems. And there's a whole manner of other things that they're good for as well. But they're good for just putting on your skin. You know, even if you're not burnt, You know, they're good to put on your skin for, for moisturising if you've got dry skin or anything, or any other sort of skin complaint like that. They're good for a number of skin things, really. Right, I'm babbling on a bit now. I'm just going to finish off planting the rest of these up, and I'll show you what they look like when they're finished. Okay then, so there are the aloe vera plants. As you can see, all I've done is basically set them over here in the middle of the greenhouse, give them a bit of water, they'll grow up. This one will go back down onto the house, and that'll basically grow on in our kitchen window. What I do suggest you do is, for keeping aloe vera plants, what you want to do is water them about once every 2 weeks. What you want to do is put a little tray underneath the pot. I always keep these in like little sort of pots underneath. And what I typically do is water them once a month. You'll find that the plant will suck all that moisture up into the plant, and then don't sort of water it any more often than that. Otherwise, you just go mad and you get loads of little babies like this. But those are the aloe veras. The tomato plants you saw in the last program, as you can see, are really now starting to shoot. This one here is sending up a new leaf. This one here has actually got a new leaf on it since the last video, so they're growing really well now. I'm just keeping them moist, and then they'll continue quite nicely. Unfortunately, the broad beans have not yet come through. Well, at least they hadn't when I looked at them the other day. I have got a little bit of algae forming in there, so what I might need to do is just lift these up a little bit to get more ventilation in there. Right, these are the Calabris. I don't know if you can see, but they're starting to shoot. Just see if I can find one with the camera. There's one just there, just starting to form. So they're just starting to come out now. The onions aren't showing yet. Those are the standard onions. The spring onions, I've just watered them and put them over there, and then this is the fuchsia over there. So that's basically, in summary, what we've done in the greenhouse today. So, I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's on the Garden.